Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means. Members of the public who wish to watch or listen to the meeting may do so by video conference only. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be available, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time, via technological means. In the event that we're unable to do so, despite our best efforts, we will post on the Topsfield website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Instructions for joining, including the password and meeting ID, are available on the Town of Topsfield Zoning Board of Appeals website. I call this meeting to order. This meeting is being recorded via Zoom and also on Boxford Cable TV for future viewing at Topsfield Cable on Demand on the town website. Is there anyone else present who wishes to record the meeting? Seeing none, we will proceed. So first item on the agenda for this evening is 9-11 Main Street, public hearing for a finding and site plan review to convert the rear section of the first floor from commercial office space to residential units. Lynn, would you like to do the honors?
Recording in progress.
Lynn, you're muted.
Printing a document and didn't want everyone to hear. Sorry. The following published in the Salem News on October 13th and 20th, 2025. Notice is hereby given that the Topsfield Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing during a Zoom Zoning Board of Appeals meeting Tuesday, October 28th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Instructions will be on the posted agenda on how to join the meeting via Zoom. Consider the application of 9-11 South Main Street, LLC, for premises located at 9-11 South Main Street, requesting a finding pursuant to Article 3, Section 3.05, non-conforming uses and site plan review pursuant to Article 9 of the zoning bylaw to convert commercial office space in the rear section of the first floor into 2 residential units. Robert J. Moriarty, Jr., Chairman, Topsfield ZBA.
Thanks, Lynn.
Sure.
Attorney McCann, are you here on behalf of the applicant?
I am indeed. Thank you very much.
Okay.
My name is Nancy McCann. I'm here on behalf of the applicant 9-11 South Main Street, LLC. With me tonight is Mark Messiz from the LLC. Also with me is John Morin from Morin Cameron Group, the project engineer. And Sid Silvera, I believe, is joining us. I just sent him the link. He is the project architect. This property is located at 9-11 South Main Street. It's located in the CR zoning district. And we are requesting a finding and site plan approval to allow the alteration of the existing non-conforming office use to make interior renovations only to the building, which will convert a portion of the commercial office space located on the first floor of the building into 2 residential units, 1 one-bedroom unit and 1 two-bedroom unit. The board may recall that we appeared before you back in 2018 to put an addition on the rear of the building and to add some commercial space at that time to that first floor, as well as the second floor of the building, and add some residential units, 2 residential units at that time. And the board granted us that finding and site plan approval. We came back to you in 2019 for a finding and site plan approval to change some of the commercial space that was located on the second floor of the building into residential units. And that resulted in 2 additional residential units and commercial space entirely located on the first floor of the building. So where we are now with this building is commercial on the first floor and 4 residential units on the second floor. 2 two-bedroom units and 2 one-bedroom units. What we're seeking tonight is finding and site plan approval to convert the rear section of the first floor into 2 residential units, a 1-bedroom unit and a 2-bedroom unit. These are small units, about 650 square feet. And the remaining first floor, the front section of the first floor, would continue to be a commercial space. So we would end up having residential on the second floor, and the first floor would be a mix, with the front section of the first floor being commercial space, office space, and there's a number of tenants in the building now, and the rear portion of the first floor being 2 residential units. No exterior changes at all to the building are proposed. No addition is to the building is proposed. No site alterations at all are proposed. This is interior renovation of the first floor only. Currently, the commercial space that is located on the first floor is 50% vacant. And we also have a need in Topsfield for additional housing, particularly housing downtown. And we think that this will fit that need by providing 2 modest size residential units in the downtown area. The CR district does permit residential use. It does not permit office use or commercial use. So by converting some of the office space into residential use is more in keeping, we think, with the bylaw than the office space use. I do have, is Sid Silvera our project architect? Has he made it on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Sid, would you like to present the interior alterations?
Sure. So I can share my screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So this is the ground, like Nancy mentioned, the only impact is on the ground floor. This is the ground floor plan. This is South Main Street here. This is the front of the building. Zoom in a little bit. These are currently, you can see faint dashed lines here. These are all offices. And it doesn't show here, but like a common community conference room. We are proposing to essentially the back half of the building to provide 2 units of 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom, roughly of 650 square feet each. And the front half of the building will remain as is. And as Nancy mentioned, there's no exterior renovations whatsoever, no additions, no window changes. Nothing. Is just an interior fit out change from a few small office spaces, such as these that are back here, to two units. And each unit has this common entry foyer at the back. And once again, even though this is the back of the building, nothing here changes. These are existing to remain and to function as they currently
are. The only thing in addition that I will add is John Moran is here, who's the project engineer. The parking, as I indicated, we're not making any site changes. The parking requirements for this use actually reduce the number of parking spaces that are required under the bylaw. Currently, 16 spaces are required, and by eliminating some of the office space and creating the 1-bedroom and the 2-bedroom unit, the required parking spaces goes down to 14 under the bylaw, but we are proposing to keep the site as is, so we will have 16 parking spaces on the site as you see now. Again, no site changes. And with that, I think what we're proposing certainly is not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing nonconformity of the office space. And we would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. The 1351 square feet, is that what is remaining of the office space?
That's correct.
Okay, so approximately 1,300 in the back and 1351 in front.
Approximately, yes, that's correct.
Okay. What about septic? Septic requirements changed?
John, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, good evening. For the record, John Moran from the Moran Cameron Group. Yeah, at the beginning of this project, we looked at the septic, and yes, by changing the commercial to residential, that does increase the flow. So we did have to design a new septic system to accommodate this change in use. We had to provide a reserve area. If I may, I'll share my screen. I believe you should all be able to see this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So we re-engineered the septic system out back. The existing septic is out back. The septic tanks are on the side of the building. The existing leach field is in the back. It's a pump system. It's still going to be a pump system. We do need to raise this elevation slightly. The original septic that was designed for this building actually got relief from the Board of Health. It received a local upgrade approval when it was installed to reduce the required separation from the groundwater, from the estimated seasonal high water table to the bottom of the leaching facility. And because of that, we couldn't add any additional flow to that system. So we actually have to pull that system out and put a brand new system in with a reserve area. There's a more detailed plan that was submitted to the Board of Health. We took a lot of the notes for the septic off of this plan because this was the plan that we submitted with the zoning application that has the parking calculations on it. And it was easier to read from the zoning perspective, but you can still see the septic system. There's a retaining wall approximately 3 feet tall at its highest point in the back that's going to be needed. This whole area is lawn. It's still going to be lawn after the new septic's installed. We do have to change over the tanks. We do need more septic tank treatment. So we have to change these tanks on the side of the building. Again, those tanks will be under the pavement. They'll flow to a pump chamber, which then pumps up to the proposed leach bed that'll be in the backyard. That design has been approved by the Board of Health, and there are wetland resource areas on the westerly side of the property. So we did have to file with conservation for all this work that's in their jurisdiction. And we did receive an order of conditions from the Conservation Commission as well. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
No, but just to confirm that the site work required for the new septic and leaching areas and other excess area did not require any change in the site layout?
They don't require any change in the parking layout or the existing pavement that's there now. The only thing that'll happen is in the backyard, we do have to grade this area, but we're not changing any of the traveled ways or any of the pavement. It's all within existing lawn that will change. And it'll be lawn after it's built.
Okay. Right. Excuse me, any members of the board, any questions? David Merrill?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Jody?
I'm assuming that there's no change to exterior lighting for residents coming in at night or anything?
That's right.
Is that okay? Okay, yeah. No other questions.
Okay. Gregor?
I don't have any questions.
And Dave Manaz?
My only question was on parking, and you already addressed that, so I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone from the public have any questions or comments? No? Okay. Then I would move that we close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
All right, roll call vote. David Merrill,
Yes.
Gregor Smith,
Yes.
Dave Moniz,
Yes.
Jody Kleiniff,
Yes.
Bob Moriarty.
Yes. Okay. All right. So, Lynn, this is a finding and site plan approval. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Okay. So is there a motion to approve the finding and to grant site plan approval for the requested changes?
Sure. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call. David Merrill,
Yes.
Gregor Smith,
Yes.
Dave Moniz,
Yes.
Jody Kleiniff,
Yes.
Bob Moriarty.
Yes.
Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
everyone.
much. Have a good
Good
night.
luck.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is 249 Raleigh Bridge Road, a continuation of the public hearing on petitioner's request for a conference and event facility special permit. So we have a few more people. Excuse me. So, apologize. So why don't we'll start the continuation. This is a continuation of the public hearing, and we obviously have more people in attendance virtually, and a lot more people have submitted letters in opposition, whether in part or in whole, to the proposed development. So since we do have a number of new people who are joining the meeting, I just wanted a couple of introductory remarks. And the first thing is I want to make sure that everyone understands what isn't actually in front of the zoning board this evening. And what we have in front of us is a request for a special permit for a conference and event facility. And the conference, the actual facility is a proposed tent to be located on the property, and associated parking and walkways and lighting in connection with it. What is not before the board is anything having to do with the winery or the brewery. So the buildings which are up front on the site, and by up front I mean in close proximity to the street, are not something which this board has before it this evening. Those items are essentially exempt from our consideration by virtue of agricultural exemptions under the Dover Amendment. So a number of people have sent letters to us indicating that they're opposed to the brewery and activities that would be associated with the brewery. We do not have any jurisdiction over the brewery, and that is not something which is up for discussion before us this evening. So I wanted to make that part clear. The second part, what I did want to make clear is that the applicant has requested a special permit. So a special permit is a particular kind of approval that the zoning board grants. And it is not, for example, the zoning board primarily grants either variances or special permits or findings. Findings are, for example, what we just did with respect to the property on South Main Street. That was an existing non-conforming use, and the applicant sought to make a change in the use of that non-conforming property. So the board made a determination that the change or alteration in the non-conforming use of the property was compatible with the neighborhood. And so therefore we granted the approval for it. The other kind of decision that is typically before us is a variance. And what a variance is a request that we not require an applicant to strictly conform to the requirements of the zoning bylaw. And within that, our jurisdiction is limited to dimensional aspects of a property. So height of a building, setback of the building, setback from both the front, side yards, rear yards, gross square foot of a building, those kinds of physical dimensions we have jurisdiction over. We do not have any jurisdiction over use variances. So, for example, if a use is not permitted in a particular district, under our bylaw, we are not permitted to grant a variance to allow the use if it's not permitted within the district. So this third type of approval that we grant is a special permit, and we are limited in terms of our ability to deny a special permit. A special permit is something which has been determined by the town by zoning bylaw change that is permitted, but subject to conditions that the zoning board may approve. So in this instance, that's what is being sought, is a special permit. So there is a strong inference under the zoning bylaw and under existing case law that our jurisdiction is limited in terms of not denying the special permit simply because, for example, we don't like the use or something like that. That's not within our jurisdiction, but we are allowed to, and frankly, it's our responsibility to impose reasonable conditions on a proposed use for which a special permit is requested if it makes it consistent with the neighborhood and consistent with the standards that are imposed by the zoning bylaw. So with that in mind, I want everyone to understand that it's really not within our jurisdiction at this point to say that the special event or conference facility cannot be granted. That would be arbitrary and capricious for us to simply deny the permit. So what we're left with is a determination of to what extent does the requested use fit within the neighborhood, and what measures can this board take in order to ensure that it is the least amount interfering with or not unreasonably interfering with the remainder of the neighborhood and the occupation by abutters and neighbors. So that's what kind of the background that I wanted to make sure that everyone understood. It was much the same as, for example, across the street, the Connemara Farm. They're entitled to a conference and event facility, but it was our job to try to do what we could to ensure that it fit within the neighborhood and was not an unreasonable interference with the neighbors and abutters. So I appreciate your patience in listening to my little dissertation, but I just wanted to make sure that it was clear from the number of letters that we had received in total opposition to the brewery and to the event that there was some misunderstanding with respect to what our jurisdiction was. The other thing in that context, I wanted to note that I would guess when we have maybe 30 letters, 35 letters, emails or letters.
Yeah, 20 letters and a 3-page petition signed by 33 people.
Okay, all right. So we have a number of petition and a number of letters expressing opinions with respect to this proposed development. So I want everyone to understand that the members of the board are very assiduous in terms of making sure that they've reviewed all of the correspondence that comes in on a matter. And since it's all available on the website, we've all reviewed it. Those letters and the petition will be incorporated into the record by reference, and certainly is part of what the board will consider in making its decision. That said, we will not read all 33 letters or 20-something letters into the record. We really don't want to bore you completely to death, but they have been received, they have been reviewed and read, and they are part of what the board will consider. So with that long introduction, I will proceed with continuation of the public hearing on this matter. So, Ms. Donhauser, I see that you're here. Do you have anything, or are you represented by council this evening, or?
Nope, just me.
Okay. So I know you weren't present for the last meeting. I assume you've had a chance to review it. I wonder if you have any additional information that you may wish to let us all know.
No, I think we just uploaded to Lynn the most recent site plan that included all the items that were asked about, I think, in the last session. So I think Lynn should have received that, hopefully.
Yeah, it came in about an hour ago, so I sent it to everyone. You probably did not have a chance to look at it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and this was adding in the some questions about parking and lighting and stormwater and septic, and so we just had it fully coordinated on a set of drawings and submitted into Lynn.
Okay. So does it reflect any substantial change from what you would propose? Are the parking areas still the same?
Everything's still the same. Yep. Just providing clarification.
Okay. And all right. So I mean, obviously, I've not had a chance to review it. So I know there were concerns expressed at the last meeting with respect to lighting. So do the plans detail the lighting more? Because I know that, for example, that the large proposed foundation around the tent area, there were no indications of lighting for that. Really not adequate lighting coming from the tent area up to the porta potties and up to the parking area. So has that been enhanced or changed?
Yeah, all of that information should be reflected on the site plan submission.
This is the latest site plan that came in, and actually lighting does not appear to be included on this plan.
All right, we'll have to resubmit that, Lynn. My apologies.
I had let the fellow know, Kevin, who had sent it, Paul, that over here as well, the parking is missing.
Okay, yeah.
There are a number of things on this plan, from the lighting plan, that were not incorporated and carried over into this one.
Okay.
Right.
I apologize. This doesn't look like the current version, so I will circle back. They were trying to get all the submissions in, and I was at the neighborhood meeting. I didn't have a chance to review it, so I will go through this and make sure that the right drawing gets submitted with everything that was asked in the last meeting.
Okay. I don't see any landscaping or on the left side of the parking.
Okay.
And the prior version that I saw had, I think it was a larger area of a foundation, and the tent was located within the foundation? Is the 40 by 80 the foundation?
It is, yeah, it's a small version that what we sized for the weddings that we think we would be holding, so yes.
Okay, so the tent will cover the entire foundation area.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, since you don't have anything additional, I guess, are there members of the public at this point who would like to express their concerns or express support with respect to the proposed development? Is there anyone who wishes to speak?
Yes, this is John Monaco, 281 Raleigh Bridge Road, Unit 13, Amberwood Farm. Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I'd just like to, we had a nice meeting with Paul today. There was people representing both the Amberwood and neighbors around there, and we had a discussion with him. A couple of housekeeping things that I wanted to ask you about. In looking at the form that was submitted, there seems to be somewhat of a confusion as to what the actual street number is of the property. I went to the assessor's office and everything mentions like 267 and 249 AKA. I believe the assessor's office only has 249. I believe that's the way it was. I went in there. I can't remember the number, but only one of the addresses is shown as taxable property in the town. So the addresses on some of these for the building permit, which doesn't affect you, but back and forth, they either mention 249 or 267. For this form, they have both of them on here. They have 249 as AKA. So I'm kind of confused because you opened the meeting by stating that this is only for the tent to the rear of the property. And I guess my question is that assuming that the front buildings that were changed and built are acceptable for events in venues? That's my question. So this is just, although you're saying it's only for addressing the rear of the property, they mentioned in the building permit 267, and then they mention the address 249. So I know I'm confused and a lot of other people are confused as well as other things, but can you clarify that as to if whatever gets drawn up on this permit, what is it actually for? Is it actually for the tent out back and the property owner has the right to do venues in the front of the property, even though it's not in the it's not permitted?
Yeah, to try to clarify, the only thing that is before the zoning board is the tent. The buildings which are located along the street are considered to be agricultural and therefore having agricultural exemption. So the buildings can be used both for their agricultural purposes, I mean, strictly agricultural purposes, but can also be used for related events that are related to the agricultural use. And that's not within the jurisdiction of the zoning board.
So if this is denied for the tent, they can still have their events in the front section of property for the two buildings.
Essentially, yes, but more precisely, we do not have any control over that.
Okay.
So I can't answer you.
That's my
yes
second question.
or no.
When you say agricultural use, I think the neighbors are kind of, number one, we thought this was a historic site, but it's not. We found that out. When you say agricultural use, what are you stating in the state law? Because what I see is in order for that to happen, something has to be produced on the property. I thought it had to be at least 25% of their. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I thought 25% of the products have to come from the property or the agriculture on the property, where all this is coming off the property onto the property. I'm confused with that definition of agricultural use.
Okay. And and I apologize, but again, what I'm telling you is that that issue is not before this board.
Okay, who do we go to for that issue?
That would be within the jurisdiction of the building inspector.
Okay, and there lies some of the problem. Okay, thank you. The other thing I just want to state is Topsfield is always looking for tax revenue. I just want to make an example. This area generates anywhere from roughly $500,000 to $750,000 in taxes for this dense area. And this is only for the 80 so-called abutters that were notified, which we were not notified in that area. So I know this doesn't affect you, but I think you have to realize that we are taxpayers out here and we generate a lot of tax dollars in a very small area. We already have a venue out there, which I know some of us object to, but it's been passed. And we got a second one in the same exact area opposite each other. So I think that's a hardship that we're gonna carry in both the value of our property as well as an impact on our lives, whether it be traffic, noise, lighting, whatever, on that property. I think it's a shame that this is going to be approved for the tent section of it. I know you have nothing to do with the front, but I think the tent should be denied for that reason alone, and they can still operate with the business out front. That's all I want to say.
Okay, thank you. I do want to address, however, what you had indicated about not receiving notice. So I do understand that apparently there's a new postman or a new mailman in that area, and there may have been some issues with delivery and how the notices were delivered. But in terms of the notices that the zoning board provides, the applicant is required to go to the assessor's office and obtain from the assessor a certified list of all of the abutters who live within a radius of 300 feet of the property line of the proposed, where the proposed activity will be located. So that list is then provided to our administrator, Ms. Bermudez, and she sends out the notices to all of the abutters. And we send them, whether or not you actually receive them or not, I can't speak to, we can't speak to, but I can assure you that the required notices were sent. And I think probably at least a majority of the people received the notices, but I do know that some people did not, and that's not something we have any control over. But
No, and I understand that, and the question, the question came up when I listened to the last meeting, is that both the attorney for the town and the attorney for the owner made a comment that there seems to be no opposition, that much opposition. I guess we're not going to impact them that much because nobody has written in. Well, one of the reasons why a lot of us haven't written in, and I think there's probably the majority of the people at Amberwood Farm, and I know there's others didn't receive it, never responded, and that was the reason responding. You can see the response right now, and that would have come 2 months ago had we received it. That's all I want to, have
Okay.
somebody recognize.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. And I did want to mention also that at least a few of the letters indicated that because they did not write in or speak up to oppose it, did not mean that they were not opposed to it. And while I understand that sentiment, unfortunately, in this context, silence is perceived to be acceptance. So, and now it's clear, a number of people have either learned about it or become aware that opposition was necessary and have done so. So we now have more input, and that input is appreciated. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, hi, this is Stephen Palmer. I'd like to make a couple of comments, please.
Yes.
So I'd like the board to look into the days of operation and the hours of operation of this special permit. I also would like the board to take a deep dive into what the lighting impact of the neighborhood will be, what the traffic impact of the neighborhood will be, and the noise impact on the neighbors. These are the issues that have become important to the people that have recently found out about this project.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if I can just quickly address some of those issues. The hours of operation, days of operation are something which the board is clearly looking at. We have not reached a point where I think any of the members are comfortable in terms of what those hours and days of operation will be. And lighting, we'd requested last meeting and requested again this evening, and the applicant has indicated that they'll provide us with more detail about what the lighting will be, and that includes both the lighting on the ground and also lighting from the tent, which we've not seen an indication of what the kind of lighting that will be in the tent, and the extent to which lighting from the tent may spill over onto adjacent property, the immediately adjacent property, and more extensively other properties towards Amberwood. So we're looking at that. The noise issue, we have more experience as a board than we care to have dealing with noise levels from these kind of facilities. And we've received advice from town council that we are not permitted to require any noise restrictions which would be more extensive than 10 decibels over the ambient noise levels. So I think that, I don't think that we have the ability to do anything more than say that the facility cannot produce noise levels at greater than 10 decibels above ambient levels. And clearly ambient levels here are more elevated than they were across the street at Connemara Farm. Just simply the distance from Route 95 results in a diminution in the level of ambient noise that would come from the highway and other locations, and even street noise. So we are looking at that issue and what we can do or not do with respect to that. And I think, I'm not sure that we have it this evening, but we're expecting that we will get further clarification from town council as to what our ability is to regulate noise and how to ensure that the facility does not exceed the limits that the board may impose on noise levels that come from this facility. So hopefully I addressed most of your questions there. So as I said, I'd like if there are additional people who have additional information.
Yes, I'd like to ask a
Did
question.
you ask about traffic? I asked about traffic as well. Traffic in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
I don't think that they can hear me.
Frankly, we don't have a traffic study for here. The applicant has not submitted a traffic study. I understand the issue of traffic and the possibility that there could be, two events emptying out at the same time, and what the impact of that may have on the street capacity. But part of the experience that we have with Connemara is that there's been no impact on traffic from events emptying out from that event facility. So I'm not sure at this point that we can understand what the potential traffic impact will be, and that's something that I think we need to look at.
Yeah, this is John Monaco again. Just to clarify that, Chimera, however you say it, Connemara Farm, what they do is they also use buses. So they cut down on vehicles, but they do have buses coming in and leaving. So that's one of the ways they do it. The other question I had, when you mentioned opposite venues, I don't know, it was a year ago or 2 years ago, there was Pierce Farm had their venue, I guess, okayed. There was another venue that's going to open up across the street for it, which the Topsfield Fairgrounds uses for parking now. That one was denied. My question is, there is a way of denying venues. I mean, there could be just impact to the community, impact in the surrounding area. So I don't know why this venue cannot be denied, all right, knowing that he has a business to run out front, which was the original intent of this property, as far as the way I read it and the way it was explained to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone
Hello?
else?
Hello?
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 Yeah, could you identify yourself, your name and address?
Yeah, my name's Mo LeBlanc. I'm from Amberwood Farm as well. I just had a couple of questions that I'd like to ask if I could. First of all, how many people are going to be able to be in that tent that they have? Has that been listed?
You, Mr. Donhauser?
150.
150. And how many vehicles are being accommodated for on the parking lot?
150.
150 vehicles. So you have potential for 150 vehicles leaving there late at night in the darkness into the neighborhood streets. Not to mention the fact that there could be another function going on across the street. So you could be more or less doubling that amount. Now, as I said, the street is very dark. You've got a bunch of people that are coming out of a venue who potentially have been drinking. There's people that are on the street, maybe out walking their dog or whatever the case may be. How can you consider that that's not going to be hazardous to the neighborhood? You get narrow streets up there. You can barely get two vehicles going by one another. Also, you weren't able to give the details on the lighting. That's a pretty big factor in there.
Go get the box.
That's going to be very important as to whether or not that you you make a decision on this thing, I would hope you're not gonna make a decision without seeing what that lighting situation is. Because first of all, that tent is gonna be pointing right at the back of my house. So I mean, if you've got lights going on up there, you could be flooding the area where our condos are.
Also, this is Deborah Blank. I did want to mention, because some people have not received notices, I'm not sure if you're aware that the house.
Mr. Hall, Steve Hall?
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted a point of clarification concerning Fairview Farms application. That was for a performance venue, and the application was not denied, it was withdrawn, if that's what the gentleman was referring to. That was all.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, and you know, further, I think part of the reason it was withdrawn is because of the situation where how it was located on Route 1 and traffic and safety considerations. So I think it was somewhat of a different animal.
Moriarty?
Yes.
Yeah, hi. Tim and Tracy Harrington, Amberwood Farm. That last case you're talking about, Fairview, I think it is. It was withdrawn. Why? Could you state that again? Why was that withdrawn?
I think it was withdrawn because there were significant safety issues with respect to the proximity to Route 1 and how traffic would enter and exit the facility, and also significant neighborhood opposition to it.
I think that's exceedingly similar to what we're saying today.
There are certainly some parallels. There's no question about it, but Route 1 is not the same as Raleigh.
Exactly. Route 1 is a highly traveled highway, which expects that traffic. And Raleigh Bridge Road is the opposite, which is a windy, narrow country road, which is not built to accept that kind of traffic. So I think, if anything, our situation is, worse, if that's the right word. So I do see a lot of parallels. Instead of using Route 1 as an exception, I think the exception is more towards Raleigh Bridge Road. We are not built to handle that. And this is a little bit different, but this is a residential neighborhood. Many of us bought homes here based upon that. Retirement home, 55 and plus. And now we are being thrust into the middle of a business and commercial district, which only seems to be expanding. It's gone from Conmara to this new possible event center. What is next? This is supposed to be it's an agricultural district. I fail to see how a wedding venue is agricultural in its composition. So a lot of this,
one across the street.
a lot of this doesn't make sense. So thank you for listening.
Okay. Well, just to clarify, first of all, the wedding facility is not being proposed as an agricultural related use. So I do want to make that clear. It is not the same as Connemara Farm is not an agricultural related use. It is simply a conference and event facility, and one which is permitted in almost every district within the town of Topsfield. So that I just want to make that clear. The other thing that I did want to indicate to you is that although certainly Raleigh Bridge is a narrow road, it is not an inadequate road in terms of handling a level of traffic. And the safety concerns that may exist on Raleigh Bridge in terms of access and egress onto the roadway are not the same as they would be on Route 1. For example, I can tell you that there was a proposed 40B housing project on Route 1, which was just to be located on the same side, just north of English Commons. And that proposal was not approved by the state, largely because of the safety of access and egress from the development onto Route 1. So, traffic traveling at 55 to 65 miles per hour gives different safety concerns than traffic perhaps queuing up 2 or 3 or 4 cars on Raleigh Bridge. So it's not a question that the road isn't adequate. The road is an adequate road. So
Okay, just thinking, I'm not, no, I interrupted, I apologize. So a United States federal highway is not conducive to traffic, but Raleigh Bridge Road is. And you said 2 to 3 cars queued up. How do we know that? There's been no traffic study. So I think we're kind of talking in circles here. We're making things up as we go along without looking at the ramifications of what has happened in the past and applying it to the current situation.
Okay. No, I appreciate your perspective. I do. But I did want to make it clear that what I'm talking about is in terms of the safety of access and egress onto the road. So because of sight distances and speed at which vehicles travel, Route 1, while it can certainly handle a volume of traffic, which is greater than what Raleigh Bridge could, it is not as safe a road as Raleigh Bridge would be in terms of cars entering and turning onto and off of the road. That's the perspective that I was trying to provide.
Mr. Moriarty, the question that you just addressed, is that your professional opinion or is that just your opinion?
It's my experienced opinion.
Are you educated to make that decision? That's why they have traffic studies. That's why they have traffic studies. They have experts say what can and cannot be used. And you're making that assumption, just like the lawyers from the town and the owner made in the last meeting, talking for the neighbors. And we had no say because we didn't know what was going on. Now we do. And all of a sudden, all these different reasons why we can't do things is coming up. It's apparent. And this is what I ran into in the building department and in the Board of Health. The same thing I ran into. They're telling me I can't do things, and legally, they could have been sued for it. That's from a legal point. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Yes.
Hi, Lily Boujou, 47 North Street. I just wanted to point out that regardless of whatever opinions on Route 1, there are other businesses such as Evermore Farm that do have events that do safely exit onto Route 1. So I think trying to do a case-by-case comparison might not be the most effective way to look at this. I came today to hear what the neighbors had to say because I happened to be at a select board meeting when some folks showed up, and I think it's great when people have an opportunity to share their perspective. So now that everyone's here, it's good to hear it. But I also came to speak in support of the presenting business. I looked at a map and trying to think of mostly the neighbors on the southern side that seem to be the most vocal. And it looks like to me, I just wanted to clarify if I'm understanding it right. It looks like the tent is to the northern part, so the farthest end of the property from Amberwood. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So I hope that the neighbors that are on the northern end are able to have conversations with the owners and with you all. My thought from having had a business in the neighboring town and been to other event venues and restaurants close to or in residential areas. Like I'm thinking about someplace like Hart House in Ipswich as an example. I know it's not a rural road, but it is a residential area. I just wanted to share that my observation, I didn't do any studies on this, but my observation is that it seems that I've seen a lot of places where it's worked out well, and communication and having an open door with the neighbors and the owner would probably be great. But as far as the zoning board of appeals and thinking from the business perspective, I appreciate that someone's looking at that property and trying to bring something nice to town instead of letting Alfalfa Farm not retain its iconic presence in our town, having been a resident here for over 35 years of my lifetime. And I think that with fair noise level conversations, I don't really see a need to restrict them on when they do their business. I think just having respectful plans in place for how to run it is great, but I just wanted to show up today as a supporter of the business. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else who has not been heard? No. Okay. All right. Mr. Donhauser, you've
Mr.
heard.
Moriarty, one more thing, please. This is Tracy Harrington Masterson. I would really like to know how we go about requesting a traffic study on this. This street does not have any street lights whatsoever. It is a rural road. It cannot, I know you say that you're experienced in this road, but there is no way you can't get by. Two cars cannot get by without worrying about your rear view mirrors. They speed down this road, everything. So I would like to know what it would take to formally request a traffic study before you even entertain giving this permit. We should be granted that as residents of Topsfield and taxpayers. So I would like to know what course of action I need to take in order to request with other residents, if they choose to request a traffic study of this road, because it cannot take the volume of people going in and out from these two venues at the same time, for that matter. There's no way. So I just want to know what steps I take for that.
The question of whether or not the zoning board requires a traffic study is within the jurisdiction of the zoning board. So there are no steps that you can take to require that we require a traffic study. So, and that's something that I think that the board will discuss.
Excuse me.
Thank you.
I'd like to second that. This is Dan Finn.
I'm sorry, could you identify yourself?
Yep, I am. Give me a second. 244 Riley Bridge Road. Dan Finn, we're right there. To reiterate what Tracy was saying.
Could you turn your video on?
Actually, I can't right now. Not working, so apologies. Is that a requirement here?
Technically, it is under the open meeting law.
Let me put myself on mute until I find it.
Okay. In the interim, Raphael McDonald, you wish to speak?
Hi, yes, Raphael McDonald, 30 Parsonage Lane. Just sticking with the theme of traffic, I would recommend bringing in our Traffic Advisory Committee, which is made up of public safety representatives as well as others, as this is perhaps right in their wheelhouse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moriarty. I'm finally getting myself squared away here.
Okay.
So yeah, just a second, a third that. Once again, 244 Raleigh Bridge Road, Dan Finn. Just to go back to the point of how narrow these roads are. And so just the last two commenters like to second and third that traffic should be evaluated in this area before we move forward with anything here.
Okay, thank you. All right. Is there anyone else? Just make sure that we haven't missed anyone who wants to speak.
Bob, could I say one thing, please?
Yes.
Michelle Mercier Link, resident, 43 Gale Street. I just wanted to mention, I know that the traffic study was, someone just mentioned about the, I think it was Raphael, about the pulling the police in. We had a resident of Amberwood who attended the select board listening session back in September and asked about the traffic studies. And I reached out to the chief of police, and he responded back along with Sergeant Giordano that they can perform their normal street traffic study, meaning they can tell you how much traffic goes back and forth, which those studies are available out on the police website.
So are you indicating that they've done a study or?
So they have done one, I don't remember the exact dates, but within the last year or two on both ends of Raleigh Bridge Road. And they are out under the, like I said, they're available for your viewing or anyone's viewing under the police website, Topsfield Police website.
Okay, and do we know when those were done, or, you know, during the day, at night, during an event, or?
I don't have the specifics in front of me, but that information is available on the specific form that's out there. The results tells you the length of time, the days, how many cars, average speed limit.
May I add to that? Is Michelle time? Just one more comment. I actually just attended one of the traffic advisory committee meetings earlier today, and they had recently done a study like that on North Street. And it seems like they would have the capability if you did want to ask them to do that again. They do. I think that it would, whoever brought that up, I think that's a great idea if you wanted to involve them in this process.
Okay, I can tell you that certainly the police department is, in my experience, has never been involved in one of our hearings in that capacity. So certainly the police reports have been important to the board in the context of, for example, noise reports at Connemara Farm, and in terms of whether or not the police have experienced any traffic or other concerns as a result of the operation of Connemara Farm. And certainly with respect to traffic, the expression that they've expressed to us that no concerns with traffic related to Connemara Farm, which is in part my experience that I've been addressing. But Mr. Monaco said I'm not a traffic expert. I only have the experience that I have, both being on the planning board and on the zoning board of appeals. So, you know, and I'll leave it for discussion discussion with the other members of the board as to what additional steps that we might need to take. So,
Bob, can I say one thing? Sorry.
yes.
It's Jen Collins Brown, 15 Grove Street. I've been on the traffic advisory committee for a while, and they do really great work. And the sergeant, they do traffic studies. There's a whole bunch, like Michelle said, there's a whole bunch of different streets, different times of day, different times of year, tells you average speed and things like that. And so they have really good input, but my what I'm hearing is a traffic study, like the impact of a business, like calculations of how many vehicles exiting and entrance, and that I don't think that's what the traffic advisory. I think we have a lot of other things to offer, but specific to that, like numbers of cars coming in and out, other than what already happens, that's all that we would have raw data for. So we have a lot of good input, but I just hear people asking for a little bit more that isn't exactly, I mean, there's a lot of information. You can find a lot of great information on that, but I think that some of the things that you're asking for are not things that we would be able to do.
And it's the interpretation of the raw data that is critical to what a traffic engineer might do. So I guess at this point, Mr. Donhauser, you've had an opportunity to hear a number of your neighbors and abutters, and I know you mentioned that you had spoken with them earlier today. So do you have any thoughts or comments for us?
First of all, we've had multiple connections with some of you over the last 2 weeks, and great opportunity today. Thanks, John, for pulling that together. Today was my opportunity just to listen to everyone. It certainly wasn't my doing that a butters list didn't get out on time, so we're kind of here now. I would recommend that we continue this and extend it. Obviously, I've been given a lot to think about through different discussions, and obviously, valid concerns. And my goal is not to come and try to jam this through. I want to make sure that we make the right decision, for the community and obviously for the property. So, I mean, those are some of my thoughts.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So are you open to a traffic study? I think frankly, a traffic study certainly seems to make sense.
Yep.
I know that, for example, I think Mr. Monaco mentioned that Connemara uses buses, and I don't know to what extent you would be using buses while you're wedding events. I mean, I think that they tend to be a popular method of transportation for weddings, given the potential non-sobriety of some of the participants. So I don't know, how much that would factor in. So I think the other concern, I mean, obviously is lighting. I think we need more information on that. And the other information that, for example, there's been a lot of discussion about the ambient noise levels that exist in this area and extending from Route 95. So have you considered getting a sound engineer to run some tests on this site and see what the levels are, and crank up some noise and see what the impact that would have on abutters?
Yes, so just handle those in order. So as far as like busing and all that, I'm not sure what Connemara and what they were required to do for traffic studies, so I'm not going to get into that. And that sounds like a solution as an output of a traffic study. So maybe they did. I don't really know what you required them to do as a board. Assuming we'd be treated similarly. But I absolutely would be happy to conduct a traffic study, assuming that, registered traffic engineer and all those results, we could pull those together and have them presented here for a continuation. I can see what the duration is for that. That's not a problem. Lighting did go into the recent set. I just confirmed, Lynn, it was submitted late to you, so I apologize. So the work has been done, but what I'll do is, let's not bring that up tonight. I think it's already been a long day for everyone involved. We'll bring that back to the next continuation. And then with regard to acoustics, we've had 2 engineers out. They've kind of laughed at me relative to the ambient that they measured down there with 95. They've questioned the validity of even having a nuptials down at that particular location. However, I have found a 3rd engineer that has decided, based on these discussions tonight, I obviously wanted to hear the neighbor's concern, to be fair, Bob. And so I think there are enough concerns such that we can have that noise study done. And I would just ask for the neighbors that I met tonight and for the neighbors I've met previously is just cooperation and to be able to connect with you and work with you from the perspective of we have the property line, of course, and we know what the state regulations are. But I think for lighting and for acoustics, we're going to want to consider your particular, vantage point to be able to make it effective. I don't want to come out with a generic study, which I've looked at some of the reports and they're kind of very binary. I would prefer to have the 3 abutters or 4 abutters involved with that, so that the any concerns or questions we can deal with it objectively through science and data, and then can come back to this forum having gone through all of that sausage making if possible. So I think that's probably the best I can offer to try to slowly work through some of these items.
Well, terrific. We appreciate your cooperativeness. So with that, I think that it's appropriate when we continue the public hearing to our next meeting in November. Lynn, the date is November
25th.
Okay, November 25th. So continue with that. I don't know that you'll be able to get everything done by then, but I would expect that certainly you can get some things done and
Great.
we can continue to make progress on this.
Yep.
So,
Great. Yep.
Okay. All right. So I would move that we continue the public hearing to our November 25th, 2025 meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call. David Merrill? I see a yes and a thumb. Okay. Gregor Smith?
Yes.
Dave Monez?
Yes.
Jody Kleiniff?
Yes.
Bob Moriarty?
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you all. We really appreciate your participation and cooperation in this. And I assume we will see many of you, if not all of you, 1 month from now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. What do we have next one?
The joint meeting with the planning board.
Ugh, not that. Okay. All right. So the next item on our agenda, as Lynn has indicated, is a joint meeting with the planning board. And those people who are here for Alfalfa Farm, you're more than welcome to stay, but no need for it. We will not be discussing Alfalfa Farm any further. Thank you.
Arthur, you're on mute.
Okay, so I think, Martha, you need to call your meeting to order.
Yes, do I have to read the entire thing all over again about, doing this via Zoom?
I don't think so.
Good, thank you. Okay, that said, I am happy to call this meeting of the planning board together and join with the ZBA in a joint meeting. Okay. Now, the nature of all of this, Lynn will tell you that when it became clear we had to do something, I shuddered and said, oh no, not again, forms, fees, all of those details. But I will assure you that this is necessary. And I think we should let Lynn kind of lead us through because she has done, a tremendous amount of work sorting out all of the contradictions and, all of the problems that exist for planning board documents and zoning board documents, and then of course fees. So if it's okay with everyone, could we kind of turn this over to Lynn?
That's great to me.
Seeing lots of nods, yes.
Okay, let me just pull up the first document here that's summary. So we kind of came across the need to make some revisions to the rules and regulations when we came across some fees that were not consistent, either within the planning board documents or across ZBA and planning boards. So I as Martha said, I took a deep dive into the rules and regulations, the fee schedule, the applications, and the distribution material, and came up with a list here. And in yellow, it pertains both to the ZBA and the planning board. These are modifications that need to be made, which is really housekeeping. So you can see the ones in yellow, the number of copies currently on the website is up around 7 or 8. And so we're killing a lot of trees when the meetings are now done via Zoom. So it's updating those, changing board names from Board of Selectmen to Select Board, et cetera. Our Form B that you both use was a list that we were asking the applicants to fill out when the assessor has their own forms and it's taken care of. So a lot of these are just housekeeping. The 3 big changes. One is that what I did, and I will pull it up on the screen because I think that needs some discussion. I pulled the fees out of all the documents to be a standalone fee schedule. And that way down the road, if you need to change anything, you just need to change that one document. Same thing with the submittal requirements. That was also embedded in each of the application documents, and it varies depending on whether you're a site plan or a comprehensive, 40B or just the kind of run-of-the-mill applications that come in. So those are 2 standalone documents that I'll pull up, and then the let's see, submittal fee, and then the actual documents themselves that just have some updates. I sent them out to everybody. I don't know if you had a chance to take a look at them. For the ZBA, it was quite easy because you guys just have 2 documents aside from the fee schedule and the submittal requirements. Planning board did go through theirs. They had about 8 documents that needed to be changed. So if there are any questions on this high level summary, which I sent to everybody, I'm happy to answer them now before we move on to the 2 specific documents that got put into, a single document. Any questions on any of these changes? Okay.
Yeah, Len, if you could maybe comment on this, the submittal requirements to be consistent with rules and regulations. I know that you looked at this. If I'm not mistaken, site plan review references the subdivision control rules and regulations as for submittal requirements.
Right, and so we change it in one area, and as long as it's just referenced, then that document didn't have to change. It just, the document that's being referenced needs to be changed.
Right. Well, everyone should keep in mind that if we're referencing subdivision control, then we're going to be modifying subdivision control to deal with the submittal requirements. And that, of course, is another whole kettle of fish for the planning board, to be amending the subdivision control rules and regulations. Okay, it's just a comment that and Bob, I'm sure will agree that this means you have to refile with land court and refile with Salem deeds, right? When we change our
Right.
subdivision rules. Yeah. So everything, and I think we all kind of know this, but things are all sort of cross-related and interrelated across so many of our documents that as we make a change in one area, it will trigger changes elsewhere, either by reference or, making those changes. right, Lynn? Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So let me see if I can pull up this fee schedule does not want to come up. So maybe I'll start with the other one and close out some documents. Let's see. I'll just do this one, the ZBA, because this is kind of a straightforward one. Beginning. Okay, so for the ZBA document, apart from a date change, you can see here, like Form B now has a new name. It's the official name of the assessor's form as opposed to just Form B. Community Development Coordinator's Office no longer exists. So you either go to the town clerk or you get your documents online. Down here, this is all of those distribution requirements. So here it referred to everything being 7 copies of all these. So instead I put in the words here to reference the submittal distribution requirements on the Zoning Board of Appeals website, because this is specifically the ZBA rules and regs. In the planning board document, it references it on the planning board website, but it's the same document. And then it will tell you on that document that I'll pull up in a minute how many copies of each of these forms you need, as opposed to having this embedded in your rules and regs. This again refers to the submittal distribution requirements as opposed to Form C that you were using. The filing fees has changed. So instead of listing what your fees are here, it says, please refer to the fee schedule. And both the planning board and ZBA fees would be on that document. As an aside, because the ZBA is an appointed board, on November 3rd, assuming everybody reaches agreement tonight, the select board will review the zoning board fee changes and vote to approve or not approve if they so choose. That has to be done before the public hearing is held in December. This is just board name changes, select board. And I took out the if pertinent, sending it to the planning boards of these towns because we always do. Everything is sent to them and we get everything from them, any hearings that they have. Here again is the select board. Here's one question for the ZBA. This whole section here talks about the fact that if you've turned down an application, people can't come back to you for another 2 years. But further down, I'll let you read it because then you won't be able to read it if I'm talking. There's the word here, planning board, and I'm wondering, should that be zoning board of appeals?
Yes, it should be.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Again, just a name change, select board. This here, just wondering, this again talks to the fact that someone cannot come back for 2 years if you've said no to them. But in section 7, number 8, right above, it does say 2 years or if there are specific and material changes. So did you want to include that in here or just leave it out? Let's see, where's section 7? See here how you say for 2 years, or if there are specific and material changes in the condition upon which blah, blah, blah. Do you want that included down below so it reads the same way, or just leave it the way it is?
Why do we have the same language in referring to the same thing in 2 locations?
I don't know. I was not changing the basic content of what you had in these. I was changing housekeeping and to ensure that things were consistent. So if you would like to change the basic wording in here, I could certainly take those comments. Let's see, backing up, this is for special permits. Yep. And it gives all the conditions. This is for variances. And so you repeat them. And then here are appeals. So some of these things are repeated, but because they're 3 different categories of rulings that you're making.
Okay.
Bob, I got a question. Is the 2-year a state thing or is it a town by town? Because I've heard that 2 years come up in another town zoning issue.
It's state with respect to variances. I know that. But I don't know off the top of my head if there's a 2-year limitation for special permits.
Okay, so in the case of appeals, Bob, should that additional language be included here as well, or do you want to just leave it, just it's the 2-year timeframe?
I mean, so this section is talking about an appeal if the planning board issues a special permit.
It says Board of Appeals right here.
Yeah, but it says it's been acted unfavorably on by the planning board.
Where are you looking? Number 2?
Section number 1, D1.
C1.
Oh, 1. Yeah, my question was not relative to 1. It was relative to number 2, something acted upon by the ZBA. But I mean, it could probably pertain to both. Are there specific and material changes that would be considered in both a denial by the planning board or the ZBA that should be included here, or not? If it is an appeal a different animal and it's just the 2-year time frame?
Beats me.
We have time to consider it before the December public hearing. So if this is one you want to think on as a board, and
Okay, because I mean, I'm looking at it in terms of C1. So if the planning board denies a special permit, so I mean, you'd only have a period of 30 days, 20 days to appeal it. So I can't see how can you appeal it again 2 years later?
well, if you appealed it and the ZBA said we're finding in favor of the building inspector, and then I know it says here you can't come back for 2 years, so I'm assuming there's some cases, otherwise it wouldn't be in here, right?
Okay, so 1 says we can't consider any appeal of a denial by the planning board.
That's the way it reads right now, yes.
Okay, so no, never. It's not 2 years. It's just flat out we can't.
Yep, that's for 1. You can't flat out can't. But in the second one, where you can, if they wait 2 years, but up ahead for a variance, I think it's a variance up here. No, not a variance.
Yeah,
It's a special permit. Yeah, special permit. It's 2 years or specific and material changes in the conditions upon which the previous unfavorable action was based. So I don't know, maybe that is very specific to special permits and does not pertain to appeals. I was just checking.
Okay. I think that I would leave it the way it is.
Okay. All right. And then here is where all of this, which usually the applicants were filling out, but now the assessor has their own form. I just changed the wording up here to attach to this application the certified copy of the assessor's form. And then they don't have to fill this all out. And that's what's actually going on today. And I just have to keep telling people, don't worry about Form B, just give me the assessor's forms. So this is just cleaning this up to be consistent with what we're telling them.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
As long as the assessors don't change the name of their form.
Yeah, that's true. I'll check with Tula and see if she's really comfortable with that name. Otherwise, I can do something generic about the certified list of abutters from the assessor's office, in which case you can change your name and you don't have to change your form.
Okay, I would go with the generic.
Okay. Okay, and then this one, again, instead of listing, you can see here how many paper copies were coming into us and who they were going to. Instead, it just says, please refer to the submittal distribution requirements on the website. And I'll show you that in a minute. And it's basically all of this information here, and then up here, it's just a number. So I'll show you that in a second.
So
And that-
Lynn, at this point, I assume that there's an absolute requirement for one physical copy of the application, or can it all be filed electronically?
One paper copy has to go into the town clerk. And then I keep one copy in your files. Not that that's a state requirement, but she does need a paper copy.
Okay, so she gets a complete copy of the whole thing
Yes,
with all attachments.
right. And so what we're asking now for, other than the big ones, the comprehensive, and I guess I can just pull it up, is that we just get 2 paper copies and then people send me the electronic version. And that's what I share with all of you.
Okay, and those are distributed to all the boards, electronic version.
Electronically, that's right. And in a
You
couple
do that
of
or they do that?
I do that.
Okay.
When they give me the electronic copy, then I send it out to everybody. And once in a while, our stormwater coordinator would have asked for a larger paper copy, but we do ask for one of those large paper copies to come in so that if anyone needs them, we do have a huge paper version for someone to look at. But now that we're outsourcing our stormwater, nobody is asking for that very large copy. We just make sure that the electronic version can be easily read, that we can enlarge it on the screen.
Okay. Okay.
See if I got, wow, this fee schedule does not want to come up. I'm gonna have to close. Oh, I'll do this. Do the distribution. Want to, okay. 1 second, sorry. Fee, I'm gonna close everything down. And then open one.
It should be easy. It's only 2 pages, but your memory maxing out.
I don't know why it's not letting me see it. Let's see. Points of, oh, here it is. Okay, this one came up. I had to close the other 3 documents. Okay, so here's the now one common fee schedule. Legal ads stayed the same. The zoning board of appeals, this is where I just needed some clarification for the board's agreement on what they'd like to do. So the wording is non-refundable application fees will appear before the ZBA for each of the following requests. So what you had set up in the past, I upped this by $25 for every category because these fees had not been increased since 2006. So for 19 years, they've been lower prices and everything has gone up.
Lynn, just to ask a nuisance question.
Sure.
Where is everybody else? Is everybody else like 100? Is everybody else like 400? And where do we fit in the average norm?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know only because about a year and a half ago, Martha had asked me to take a look and we brought this up before the planning group. But at the time, they did not want to increase their fees. We're kind of right in the middle of the pack.
You know about abutting towns? For example, Boxford, Georgetown?
Yeah, and again, this was about a year and a half ago, but at that point, we were right in the thick of things. We weren't way out of whack with anything, but the vote on Martha's board was to keep them the same. They don't want to have people have to pay higher fees. So they did not vote to increase them at that time. I just know that everything, including the administration costs, have gone up. And the point of this was to cover the administration costs so that, if certain people are adding on to their homes or asking for special permits, the whole town wasn't paying for it. They were getting the benefit, they were paying the administration costs. So you can choose to leave it at 200 because that's what it was. I just upped it to 225 to try to cover the expenses a little bit more. We still go in the hole. These fees do not cover the administration cost, but the way you had it set up, the ZBA did, if there was an appeal, say for a building inspector decision, that was $200. Now it's $225. A finding, a variance, $200. But when you needed a site plan review, you asked for another $200. I don't think I know I did not know that, so that was going by the wayside. I don't think the town clerk knew that because when she was accepting the applications, it wasn't being collected. So in the case of, if you add a site plan review, it's another $200 or $225. So in this case, let's say someone asked for a variance, but it also required a site plan review. There was a change of use or something. It would be $225 plus $225. That's how you had it in your rules and regulations. And I'm just confirming now that is that the case with everything. Let's just say there is a finding. Actually, this happened tonight with Attorney McCann. There was a finding and a site plan review. She actually paid for both. She paid $400. So just want to make sure, is that how you want to do it? That for any one of these, it's a cumulative. So a finding is $225. You need a site plan review, that's another $225. If you need a special permit, that's another $225. At what point do you want to stop being cumulative, or do you always want to be? And in this case, like special permit, I put one or multiple. I know we're going to have that situation coming down for the highway garage. They need multiple permits. If they come before you for one permit or 4 permits, is it just $225?
Well, I certainly would suggest that, for example, it's not unreasonable what we did tonight for separate fee for a finding and also for site plan review. I mean, it turned out that site plan review was non-existent, but we can end up spending a lot of time on it, and sometimes have our constituent department heads looking at stuff for that. So
Right.
I think it's certainly appropriate to charge multiple fees, but maybe cap it at $675.
Okay, 675 cap. Okay, so in this, I don't know if anything gets bundled with an appeal. I was like, if there was an appeal and a variance, again, each one
No, there would
gets,
not be.
there would not be.
An appeal would not be bundled with anything else.
Okay, so in that case, it would just be the 225, but you might have, and I put a finding with or without a variance. And again, we can break them apart. So a finding is 225, a variance is 225. Or you could have just a finding with or without a variance and then a variance. So I'm trying to understand, because it was very concise, the old fee schedule. I wasn't sure the thought process.
So is this what the existing is, finding with or without?
No, I put in those words. It just said the fee for an appeal, a finding, a variance, or a special permit was $200. If you also want a site plan review, you throw in another $200. So the site plan review was the only thing that made it double.
Hey, Bob, just a point of information. I just looked up Boxford because they seem to do everything really well there. And I could find on their ZBA, a special permit is $500, a variance is $550, a 40B is 500 plus 50 for each unit. So, we are low on the scale of things.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that I'm interested in. I mean, this is not something we're likely to do again for 5 years or more. So if we're going to increase the fees, we might as well increase the fees. So I certainly, I would not be opposed to 300 for each.
I agree. There is the
It would
one,
still be cheap.
Yeah.
and there is the one issue under site plan review that you need a stormwater management and erosion control permit review if you're doing site plan review. And when we get to that, you'll note that we now have to assess rather significant fees for stormwater review because we no longer have an in-house stormwater coordinator, that it's all farmed out at significant cost to the applicant. So I know Lynn will get to that at that point. But 300 for each seems eminently reasonable.
Okay, and could I ask about the special permit, one or multiple? I put those words in there so that I was sure I understood and could make the fee schedule reflect what you're thinking.
I'm fine with one or multiple. I mean, we're looking at the same issues for the special permit, and
Okay.
it's probably unlikely that we'll see many where multiple other than the restaurant. But even with them, I mean, we're going to need site plan review. I don't know whether we need a finding, but so I'm fine with one or multiple, but for finding, I would take out the words with or without a variance.
Okay.
Yeah, Bob, just another thing, Middleton's 300 across the board for the appeal, for variances and special permits, all 300.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I guess I'm more in tune with Middleton than I am with Oxford. So.
Mhm. Okay, and then just to Martha's point here now, the site plan reviews that require storm management permits will also be required to pay this below. So this is the contract we currently have with Bobrek. It's the outside stormwater engineering company that has been working with us for the past 6 months. And now we had to enter into this arrangement because we ran out of money to pay them. So now the applicants have to pay for the outsourced stormwater review. So the application fee is 300, now I'll up it. But it's waived if it's part of the site plan review because they've already paid the $300 for the site plan review. So that initial fee, the planning board is going to get that fee all the time. And then, unless it's site plan review. But often that is just for a change of use internal. Maybe Martha, we could talk about that. But okay, so that's the first thing is the application fee. This part here is what goes to Bobrek. So if they did an initial review to let us know that it needed a stormwater permit, that's $200. And then for them to actually review the plan is $750. So there probably won't be any instances now. I mean, before Martha and I would talk and Martha's insight on what absolutely did not need stormwater or something that was so obvious that it didn't need to go to Bobrek for that initial $200 review. But most of the things now are a little more gray. And so it's better to have the engineer say yes or no for these stormwaters. So it'll be $950 is the fee that we're going to collect at the time that they submit their application. So we'll get the application fees that we talked about earlier, and then they're going to have to make out a check to the town of Topsfield for $950, and that's going to go into an escrow account. The financial people looked at all different alternatives, and while this is unwieldy, it wasn't at their doing. It's the state requires these accounts, so we have to assess interest, and at the end, if there's any interest that's in this account, we have to cut a check and give them back 10, 15 cents, and then pay Bobrek with the remaining money. So it's more of a back office issue. But in the case of, and the planning board has run into this a couple of times, that the stormwater plans are really bad and they're not following the rules and regulations and they're not providing the board with what is necessary. And so we've had to go back multiple times for them to fix the plan. If that's the case, after this initial review that's done for $950, where the engineer will look at the plan and say, you have to change these 4 things. The applicant then changes the 4 things, resubmits the plan, and the engineer says, it looks great, you're done, and they give a positive recommendation to the planning board. But in some cases, they'll do 3 of those 4 things and send back a plan that's not complete, or they'll fix one thing and cause another problem. So if there's a need for another review, a whole nother second cycle, it's an additional $500 for each of those reviews until the plan is acceptable to the engineer and they give a positive recommendation to the planning board. So that is what is in the contract now with Bobrek, and this now is being paid by the applicants, or will be.
Okay, Lynn, I have a couple of questions. So I don't see where the $200 fee is.
Yeah, it's not specifically laid out here. I'm going to change these words and we're just going to say 950. So Bobrick's contract says that they're going to charge $200 for every first review that they do to evaluate how many square feet have been disturbed and does it trigger the need for a stormwater permit. If I send something over to them that was in permit length from the building inspector, then Bobrick is going to come back and say, you owe me $200. Then I'm going to go to the applicant or the developer, and I'm going to say, it's been determined you need to do a stormwater plan. And when that plan is submitted to me, I'm going to send it back to Bobrick, and for them to do that first major review is $750.
Okay,
So
so
it's really-
shouldn't we set it up like that then? So
Yes,
step
that's
so
what
step
I
two
was
is $200.
no, because nobody pays me anything until they
Well, they
actually have to
should.
submit an application.
So what if they come back and say, well, no, I'm not going to pay? They
I
decided
did,
not to move forward.
yeah,
If I
go
could
ahead.
just comment that our old system was that we had an in-house person who would look at the plan before an application was submitted, before any of this got started. And that person would say, yes, you need a stormwater permit, or no, you don't need a stormwater permit. So the no, you don't need a stormwater permit would go away happy. Now, we don't have anyone who can do that. We can do some, I mean, if it's clear that this is a very minor, change and that it clearly doesn't trigger anything, we can say, no, you don't. But most of the applications that come in require an engineer to actually do the calculations and to make a professional judgment that, yes, a stormwater application is necessary. And that is what the Bobrick's going to charge $200 for. So we collect the $200 after the fact as part of this larger fee that they're paying. But we still are going to have to be somehow or another subsidizing those initial reviews for which we get no money until such
And
time.
I didn't
Kevin?
assess, and there aren't many instances where that happens. There are
Yeah.
very few.
Kevin, you wanted to?
You're on
muted,
mute,
Kevin.
Kevin, you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say Martha and Lynn have put a tremendous amount of work into this process, and the team and I have met, my finance team, to sort of put a flow chart together because it's very complicated, and I'm personally a visual learner. I like to see it. We're actually working right now to put that into a hard form, like a single page that we can keep track of the different steps internally in the processes. But the two things I want to mention is the town, because there is a part where we're going to have to create the escrow accounts and work collaboratively with Lynn. We are lockstep and prepared to provide the resources to make that happen. And then second, I just want to thank the team for working with us to try to come up with a solution. Because to Martha's point a second ago, it is a challenge in a small town when you don't necessarily have the right resource at the right time. And having a third party who's going to be able to step in and provide the expertise necessary, and to do that without burdening the town with additional cost than what we're already incurring with the previous stipend. Seems like it could be a win-win, but we'll be flexible and we'll work as we get through the processes too. I'm sure there'll be tweaks along the way, but just wanted to make sure from the town's perspective, because there's an overlap between the board and the town, and how we execute this, that we are good with the proposal, and willing to run in tweaks if necessary.
Okay, so my thought was, and obviously you guys know, I don't deal with this, so you guys know more, but my thought was the applicant comes in with a proposal. So we tell them at that point, okay, it's $200 for a determination of whether or not stormwater management permit is going to be required. So it's a $200 fee payable to the outside engineer. So the town does not have to have an escrow for it. The engineer makes the determination And if it's no, then, you know, they're done. But if it's yes, then they then need to make the 750. So that's what I was losing in terms of where the $200 came in.
Bob, so when they submit a building permit application, they do it online. They're not at the counter giving anybody money. So they would have to, I suppose, pay via credit card for that initial review. And then if it does move forward to need an application, that $200 has to, according to Kevin's finance team, when they talk to the state, have to be put into an escrow account. Then you collect the other 750 because we are holding the money for Bobrick. It doesn't get sent immediately to Bobrick. Otherwise, Bobrick is working for them. So we have to collect the money, put it into an escrow account, and then we pay Bobrick at the end of the month. So we've had a lot of conversations about how best to collect that money to make it streamlined, collect it all at one time, one location. There won't be many instances when we're told, no, you don't need a stormwater and we just have to eat that. But there will be a couple, and Kevin's team has come up with an approach to put money into Martha's budget so that we cover those. And the additional monies that are being raised here also will help offset that.
Okay. All right. Great. Thank you.
Probably 4 or 5 times a year at best. So,
okay.
Just on the that we will not authorize Bobrick to do any work until the escrow agreement signed and a check is in hand in the full amount to put in the escrow, so that the town won't be in a situation that we end up doing the work and eating the cost. It will always be the applicant who will cover that.
Except for the $200 sometimes.
That's right.
Except for the occasional $200 where Greg reviews it or Bobrick reviews it and says, no, it doesn't need a stormwater. Then that $200 we just spent. And we're covering, just from a budgetary standpoint, we have a $5,400 line item for stormwater review support that exists. For next year, because of the new model, we actually can reduce that line item slightly and still have a conservative amount of money left for those occasional $200. So the net effect of the new plan is that bottom line money that the town's spending will be less than it has been in previous years.
Okay, great.
And then down here, the only other comment here is that if the stormwater permit was approved by the ZBA as part of your site plan, no additional fee will be required to the planning board to just vote to issue the permit, because they're not doing any legwork. They're just taking your recommendation and making the vote. So
okay.
That note is in here. So that is everything for the fees for the ZBA. Unless anybody had any questions. I'll make those changes that we just talked about that you guys agreed on.
Now, one thing, I just saw this business park, 225. Bob, you'll remember that at one point, the planning board had to handle all of the permitting in the business park. If I'm not mistaken, we changed that.
Yeah, I think what it is everything in the business park requires a special permit. I think we changed a few things that they're permitted as of right, but I think that the most important change was that there was a policy decision that, for example, once an office was permitted,
right,
that the next time an office moved in, that you would not need a new special permit. So I think that's what really helped to eliminate.
But this is planning board. The planning board used to be responsible for special permits in the business park. And if I'm not mistaken, we changed that. So now the ZBA is responsible for all of the special permits. The last one I think that we handled was the Osteria. That this was, just before we made that change. So we ended up dealing with the special permit and the site plan review for the Osteria. But now the planning board does not deal with business park special permits. That's your bailiwick.
Okay.
Okay, so
So
we
I'll
need
just
to take
take
that
that
out.
out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you have
Okay.
any special permits that you issue?
Oh, yes, we do elderly housing districts and we do solar and wind. There's a specific list in Article 5 of
Okay.
what we handle.
Scenic
All right.
road.
Yeah, scenic road, common drive, stormwater. But that's not, neither scenic road nor stormwater is a zoning article. Those are,
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so Martha, for your team, then I'm looking at these, since these are not, they weren't $200 to start, they were $100 per application plus 100 per lot parcel created or change of lot line. And
Right.
same thing for common drive, that's down at 100 now up to 125. So do you have a sense for what you'd like those lower priced ones to be if the others are going to go up to 300?
Well, honestly, they've gone up 25, but A&Rs, how does one justify significant fees for A&Rs, right? I mean, there's not much that one can do about lot lines and A&Rs except because their approval not required. So, I mean, does anyone think we should raise those beyond the 125?
So but it's actually 125 of the application plus 125 per lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so a 3 lot would be
370.
$500.
Yeah, 125 plus
525.
125 times 3.
Yeah.
So comfortable leaving it at 125?
I am. But if anyone thinks they should be higher, let us know.
Okay, and then common drive,
Oh, I would leave that alone. It hardly ever shows up.
leave it at 125?
Yep, I would. I mean,
Okay. This elderly housing did not change. This is still a calculation based upon square feet, gross floor area. These all up to 225, so these 300 then? Planning board comfortable with?
oh, yes. If
Okay.
we're raising the others to 300, because those are special permits.
Okay, and scenic road, these used to be 75. I raised them to 25 to 100. Do you want them any higher than that?
No, I'm fine with that. And site plan review would go up.
To 300, yep. And stormwater, this would go up 300. This, just have to think about how this is worded, the 750 or 950, because to Bob's point, it can get confusing that someone would say, well, why am I being charged 950 versus 750? It's almost easier to pay the full higher amount and just run everything by the engineer, than to get into this, you owe less, you owe more. I think that'll be more confusing to people and have them feel like they need to discuss it. Here, subdivisions didn't change. Those are the same pricing.
I would
Wind
leave
energy.
those alone. Yeah,
Oh.
the wind energy, that should go up to 300
Okay.
because that's also a special permit.
Okay. Were there any other questions or comments? If not, I will make those changes. And then the last, let me see if I had this pulled up. Open the distribution one. Middle distribution requirement. Okay. Hopefully I can pull that up. Yay, okay. All right, so this would be the one consolidated document to let people know how many copies they have to give. This is the same wording was on your old one. So what I did is just put the 3 bullets for the 3 different types. A comprehensive permit. I had 5 paper copies, but I can make that any number that you want. I don't know. It was always higher than the other 2. Subdivision was down to 4. And for any other permit, special permit, etc., was 2 paper copies. Just take comments on number of paper copies we think people need, or your board needs. It's rare that anybody's asking for paper these days, but I'm trying to think back to when we did the 40B for Emerson Homes. How many people actually picked up the paper version? And that was, a novel. It was so thick that was a lot easier to review in paper. Any thoughts from anyone?
I'm just asking a question that's probably obvious, but is when you say full size diagram, is it obvious to people what that actually means, or can there be some ambiguity with that?
That's so funny, Jody. It came up with KP. They asked that same question. They're like, is that the 2x3? I can find out what that exact size is and put that in there. I think it's 2 foot by 3 foot.
Yeah, it would be 24 by 36.
24 by 36. Okay.
24 by 36 drawing in scale.
In scale. Okay, I can word it that way.
Or the drawing, it's actually a 24 by 36 inch plate with the drawings, with in scale drawings. Mr. Architect, you want to correct me on that, or is that correct? Where's
Gregor?
I'm here. So I don't think I'd use the term plate.
Because I don't want people to be confused with a submission and the physical size of the paper is different than the scale or the size of a drawing. Or am I splitting hairs?
I think you're splitting hairs because I think that generally someone who's submitting something like this knows what you're talking about.
And just to note, the description that you had in your current documents didn't provide anything other than full size. You didn't provide any inches, so.
Yeah, I think it's like Gregor says, anyone who's submitting these knows what a full-size drawing is.
Right.
And I would say drawings are as opposed to diagrams.
Okay.
Or plans.
Drawings / plans versus, and then take out diagrams? Or is drawing?
Just one, just drawings.
Drawings, okay. Diagrams. Okay. And the verb, are these numbers 5 paper, 4, 2 good, or is 5? I just feel if you have a 40B coming in, it may be, the fire department or the police department, or someone would like a set of those to take with them. So I don't want to minimize that if people like paper copy to keep in their office and reference.
Well, we always have the authority to ask for additional copies if it turns out that we need them, and that's always stated in the documents here. So additional copies of any and all. I do remember that with the Hickory Beach subdivision, they were bringing in cases and cases of paper to deal with all of the submittal requirements, and they were all left, or most of them were left in the office, that people just wanted to look at the electronic versions. So I would limit, I think these numbers are fine, and if it turns out we need more, we just ask for more.
Would you consider just making both of them 4 for both comprehensive and subdivision?
Any thoughts on that? Is 4 for both? Or do you like the 5 and the 4? Bob, because you guys do the 40Bs, any
I mean,
25.
I hate paper, so,
4, then 4, 4, and 2.
Good.
I mean, since we have the ability to request more, should we need them, I think that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I would say we probably have had at least 12 full sets of documents from Emerson Holmes that Beth was like, what do you want me to do with these? Like, I don't know. I mean, we don't need them. So,
yeah,
okay.
recycle it.
Yeah. And the wording here is exactly what you had on your existing submittal.
Okay.
So there was no change. It's really just lifting it and putting it in this standalone document. Okay, I think that's it.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, when these fees, if the ZBA is happy with the fees, then those go to the select board, because the select board has to approve your fees. That the planning board has a public hearing coming up, where we will be dealing with a lot of other things, changes to rules and regulations and that sort of thing. And that I guess we would be dealing with the fees at that time. That's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay. So Lynn, do we need to vote?
I would, so that the select board knows you're voting to approve the $300 and the way it's outlined on that fee schedule. They're cumulative up to, you'd mentioned before, a dollar value like $675. Now that they're $300, is there a cap you want to put on excluding stormwater, because those are external costs?
Yeah. I don't know, 750 sound good to everybody?
How would that work if they're 300, if it's 300?
You get a volume discount.
So for your third, you get a break on it?
Yeah, the third one's only
Okay.
150.
Does that sound okay to everyone?
Sure.
I'm fine. Yeah, that's fine.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, if someone could make that motion.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. All right, roll call. David Merrill,
Yes.
Gregor Smith,
Yes.
Dave Moniz,
Yes.
Jody Kleiniff,
Yes.
and Bob Moriarty.
Yes.
Okay, so then as the planning board chair said, they'll meet on November 5th and go through theirs in a little more detail. They had another opportunity and they don't have to go to the select board because they're elected. And then December 3rd would be the public hearing for both boards, presenting anything that needs to go to the public hearing. Not everything does, but if it's presented as a comprehensive package, it makes more sense to people, I suppose, than, piecemealing it. So that would require a quorum from both boards on December 3rd. Does that work for everybody to at least get 3 people from each board there?
Sure.
Sure. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well,
All right. Bye, planning board.
what's that, Bob?
I said bye, planning board.
Oh, you're closing your meeting? Don't we
No,
have?
just yours.
Don't we have to close ours?
We're throwing the planning board out.
Oh, well, I don't know about
We're
that.
being uninvited.
Yeah, I guess. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to close the planning board meeting?
I'll make a motion to leave.
All right. Can we have a second?
I'll second.
Silly's seconding. Okay, so we need a roll call. Let's see, Zilly,
Aye.
Jenny.
She's
Yeah.
around here somewhere.
Yeah, she's there.
She's on mute though.
muted.
She came
And
off
I-
mute but didn't say anything.
Oh.
Off mute.
You know, I think she's saying aye. Steve?
Aye.
I vote aye. Good night, zoning board. Thank you for your.
Good night, Pete.
Good night, planning board.
Thank you.
Planning
Good
board.
night.
Night, Moon.
Bob,
Okay.
can I ask a question relating back to a special permit, or is it not allowed?
It depends on what it is.
Well, at the beginning of the meeting, you mentioned that like we can't really deny a special permit. So does that mean a special permit process excludes the language around it not being more detrimental to the neighborhood? So
No.
it could be totally detrimental, but we can't deny it. You know,
No.
is that why we can't deny it?
No, I perhaps misspoke to some degree. Yeah, if it totally does not meet the criteria for a special permit, we could deny it. But it's a much heavier burden for us. For example, the burden in a variance is on the applicant. He has to prove has to prove the hardship, has to prove that it's unique to his lot and not affecting the district in its entirety, and it's due to a topography or size or shape of the lot. And
Right.
it's a very hard, traditionally courts have said it's a very high burden for someone to meet in order to get a variance. But a special permit, we can't act arbitrarily or capricious with respect to a special permit. So, and frankly, in this situation, I mean, we granted one across the street. So for us to, at this point, say that one is okay, but this one is not okay, I think would be overturned quickly, because it would be arbitrary and capricious to grant it in one location and not the other location.
Yeah, I agree that the arbitrary and capricious, I mean, that's, that nothing, we should never do that. But I always thought that we're not supposed to make it, allow it to be more detrimental. And I didn't know if somehow the special permit is exempt from that, and it can be more detrimental. We can't stop that.
As I tried to indicate, our function really is to make sure that it fits as harmoniously as we can. So, unless it were so outrageous that we said it just doesn't fit, doesn't belong, then unless we could reach that conclusion, our function is to find ways to make it as compatible with the neighborhood as we can by imposing conditions.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't really answer the question about detrimental. So that, is that just I'm just asking, is that off the table because it's a special permit?
No, but I mean, it's part of the criteria that we would apply in order to determine what kinds of conditions. I mean, frankly, any kind of change is going to be more, I guess, arguably detrimental to the neighborhood. Connemara Farm is, even operating perfectly, is in some sense detrimental to the neighborhood. So detrimental is not an absolute, it's a relative.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. All right. All right. So when we have minutes, right?
Resets, and I know you're going to ask, so Jody did go through them with a fine-tooth comb, and she gave me some edits for the 9.4 version, and she was fine with the other two, so I incorporated her edits into the 9.4.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the 3 sets of minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call. David Merrill,
Yes.
Gregor Smith,
Yes.
Dave Menez,
Yes.
Jody Kleiniff,
Yes.
Bob Moriarty.
Yes. Okay. Well, we made it.
Bob, do you mind hanging around for one quick question afterwards?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you all, and it's been a long night, so I move to we adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call. David Merrill,
Yes.
Gregor Smith,
Yes.
Dave Menez,
Yes.
Jody Kleineff,
Yes.
Bob Moriarty.
Yes.